When you look at the entire realm of the Republic of Zimbabwe, you must understand that tenders and contracts are not just documents, but they are actually gateways to generational wealth. So if you want to go into tenders and contracts, there are 3 to 4 basic things that you may require. And this is, of course, number 1, you must be registered with the PRAZ. Number 2, you must, of course, have a registered company. Make sure that your CR14, your CR06 is in place. Number 3, of course, you need test clearance with the ZIMRA. Number 4, of course, you need industry specific licenses like C4s. If you are into construction, you have to be NASA compliance as well. So this is the information that you find publicly on the internet. But if you think you can become a multi-millionaire in this planet using public information, you'll be the biggest fool on this planet. Even your ancestors themselves, they will be ashamed of you. You can't tell me that information that is available to 14 to 15 million people in the Republic of Zimbabwe, you yourself, you can use that public information and become a multi-millionaire and win a tender. You'll be wasting your time. That's why I'm telling you that in doing all these things that are required, there are 3 dimensions in the realm of tenders and contracts that you must score if you are ever to get a contract or a tender that can change your life. And I made it very clear that these 3 elements are spiritual, relational, and political. So on the spiritual side of things, you must be a spiritual person. You will not find a multi-millionaire in the Republic of Zimbabwe that is not spiritual. Every millionaire either has a prophet or a pastor that covers them in the spirit and stands in the gaps, or they consult high-profile witch doctors. The second thing you need are relations. You can never in this planet win a tender or a contract without a relation. The education teaches you to prepare documents. It doesn't teach you to prepare relations. And yet you require relations on this planet to be rich. There is no human being in the nation of Zimbabwe that can win a tender or a contract if they don't master the art of preparing relationships. There is a gentleman that I know who is now extremely rich as I am talking to you. But he was coming from abject poverty. So what this gentleman did was that in his field, he needed a tender or a contract. But he knew that, look, I may write good proposals and make submissions and biddings, but if I don't have relation with the people in the field that I'm trying to get a tender, it will be a waste of time. So the gentleman thought to himself, and he decided to convince a secretary of a particular boss in his field that he loves that lady. He told that lady that I have never met a beautiful lady like you on this planet. And if you give me the opportunity to date you, I will marry you. So the lady thought, no, I found a gentleman who wants to marry me. And they entered into a relationship. And as they were in a relationship, he then placed out his desire to bid for a tender that is available at a working place. And the lady was saying, no, this guy, I'm going to get married to this guy. So instead of pushing other documents, why don't I push his documents? Because if he get this money, we'll get married and start a life. So the secretary pushed his biddings and he was given a tender worth a lot of money. And he began to inject money into other projects as well. But ultimately, the secretary discovered that the youngster was married and he had family. So they ended up separating, but he was now rich. So you must understand that he that wants honey must brave the bees. If you want honey, you can't just collide and congest into a swarm of bees because you want honey. They will kill you. If you want honey, you have to brave and strategically find ways on how you can extract that honey and yet still not provoking the bees, so that you leave the place with your life and with the honey as well. This is the dynamic on this planet. If you fail to understand this, you'll be wasting your time in this physical world, my friend. The third thing you require on this planet to get a tender or a contract that carries generational wealth, it is political connection. I'll tell you one thing for a fact. A lot of people make a mistake of failing to understand that politicians rule a country. It has always been like that, even during the earthly ministry of the Messiah, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. The Roman Empire had politicians that were ruling Israel. If you haphazardly go head on with politicians, they will mess you up in this planet. They carry that power because they rule a nation. In Matthew chapter 14 from verse 1 to 12, you hear there of the story of John the Baptist. John the Baptist, instead of him concentrating on preparing the way for the Messiah, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, he ended up meddling with issues that are not of a concern to him and his assignment. And he told publicly Herod that Herod, what he's doing is not good because he's marrying the wife of his brother Philip. So people around Herod, they were provoked that no. This John the Baptist, we're respecting this guy, but when you speak of these things now, you can go public and tell the king to his face that he is wrong. What is that? And those people convinced the king and they ordered the execution of the head of John the Baptist. He was beheaded. In 1 Timothy chapter 2 from verse 1 to 2. So Paul was making it very clear that Timothy, a young man, learn to pray for the rulers. Learn to pray for those that are in places of authority so that you may lead a peaceful life. So when you pray for a ruler, it doesn't mean you have to be in agreement with the policies of that ruler. But when you pray for a ruler, it's because you are trying to seek the will of God over that leader and the people that leader is governing. Because you know that God has the power to influence the decisions of a leader. That's why we pray for rulers. That's why we pray for those in authority. I know a young gentleman, when he was 27 years of age, he registered a company. Then he joined the Zimbabwe Youth Empowerment Program. And then he began to serve for free in most national events until he scored good relations with the old contractors that began to mentor him, and until he found the favor of the permanent secretary. And then he bidded for a tender, and he was awarded, and he won that tender, which was worth $3 million United States dollars. As we are speaking right now, he's regarded as a Mbinga. He's living a good life, sending his children to private schools. You must understand that a goat that belongs to the chief feeds where it wants. So you have to belong somewhere. In Genesis 41 verse 41, it makes it very clear that Joseph found favor before Pharaoh, and he was made ruler of the entire nation of Egypt. He who has the ears of the king can rule a kingdom. If you specialize in shouting at the kings and fail dismally in having the ear of the kings, you will die in abject poverty in this planet. You need to be spiritual, you need to have relationships, and you need to have affiliation and a little bit of connection with the elite. So the spiritual side of things will be your seed The relational side of things will be your ladder, and the political side of things will be the fuel that will fuel you into those dimensions of generational wealth. This is it.